I was part of the class team that came up with the proposal for the new school. I am a member of the Department of Sociology, a department that is not certainly at this point in time affected in the way the Center for African Studies, Gender Institute, and so on are affected. We don't face, possibility of being closed because we're a small department. But somehow I was brought into this team. I didn't ask why. And I just assumed that the work I did for the previous Vice Chancellor, Professor Bremner, on the Mafeje affair, we know it is the Mafeje affair, and the apology that flowed from that. That the experience that I gained doing that work, and the subsequent work that I'm doing on the political and intellectual biography of Mafeje, with the Center for African Studies being key to that project. That work, or maybe people wanted to draw from whatever insights I could bring into this discussion. If I were to think of the process that led to us thinking about the school, I remember the first few days of our meetings, we were not quite sure what exactly to address. There was the question of the relevance of African studies in a post-colonial context, whether we need a department of African studies in a democratic South Africa. There was that question, and there are various ways in which that question has been addressed in other contexts. That African studies, for example, was a project of the CIA, and that if we were to teach African studies at UCT, we'd be agents, maybe unconsciously, of the CIA and so on. So that's one thing that we discussed, but we quickly dispensed with that idea, and we thought that it was a flawed argument. And I'm not going to repeat and compete with my colleagues who have put forward positions as to why they believe in the new school. What I can say is that we realized as we're talking amongst ourselves that all of us had interest in the affairs of the continent. But we didn't know each other at that level. So we thought that it would be a good idea if we could have a school that would pool those intellectual resources together and embark on a project that would foreground Africa, the studies of Africa. So I think, when I reflect on the process, this is how we came to the idea of the school. As I say, I'm from the Department of Sociology, which is not part of these discussions. But I volunteered in the group to be part, to consider making a proposal to the dean, head of department, that my research chair be located in the school. Because I thought, that's where the chair belongs. Not that sociology is ill-treating me, or they don't like me, or I'm not happy there. I am, but intellectually, I thought that there were more prospects for my own growth of students on the campus if I was located in the school. Right. Now, I think the issue that confronts us now is, why are we not going ahead with this? I think that's the issue that was big. And I think the reason there is that there is the issue of small departments, which I think in a way is an administrative issue. my sense, listening to discussions to the dean and so on, my sense was that it would probably not be possible for UCT to continue having these small departments for any length of time. And I didn't ask what any length of time would be. But my sense was that 2011, for example, we shouldn't have these small departments. We should have bigger departments that would be in line with what? Faculty, the Faculty of Humanities. So there was that agency which was driven by a decision by the faculty to close small departments. But at the same time, there's the idea of a school. A school, as Harry has so eloquently put it, that was not supposed to bring small departments together just for the sake of meeting this administrative requirement. But a school that had a vision, that had a mission, and so on. Right. So there are those two processes, and there's a tension between the two processes. My sense, if I'm answering to the dean's question, about the two-stage approach, or whether we should go for a permanent revolution. Uninterrupted. I mean, politically, I've never believed in the two-stage theory.
Well, I haven't either.
I know, but people change. So I think, to that question, I would say it would be a mistake if we were to take this stages approach. Right? I think if we have time, and I think we have time, and commitment, we should go for the school. And sort of confront all the problems that will be there. There will be teething problems and so on. But there is commitment. I think there is enough commitment amongst us to make this project work. So I would say, let's go for the school. The first stage is problematic in many, many ways. And for me, when I looked at the name of the department in this first phase, it's social anthropology, it's linguistics, it's gender studies, and then I asked myself, where is African studies? It's not there. And then I look closely at who makes up this school. Is these three departments and the African Studies, the Center for African Studies. And I say, if they are part of this, but they are not there in the title of the department, what does this mean? And what does it mean? How should one read this against the background of many, many arguments that have been mounted against UCT for marginalizing African studies? I thought we were just putting ourselves in a den of lions by having this kind of arrangement. Just the name itself would make people say that, look, we knew that there was always been an attempt for UCT to close the Center for African Studies, especially since Mamdani. That if one were to look at the history of the Center for African Studies after Mamdani, that history, those years, were an attempt, a systematic, methodical, attempt by UCT to deplete the Center for African Studies, and then ask it, can you run when they've worn it down? That's how people, and as I write the history of the Center for African Studies, which is part of my research, this is the conclusion I would consider making. That, look, why is the Center for African Studies weak? We should know what happened. Why was the A.C. Jordan chair not advertised when Mamdani decided to leave, or was pushed, whatever however we can interpret Mamdani leaving. He left, but he didn't leave with the chair. So there are all sorts of questions that can be asked. And the first phase, or the two-stage approach, and embarking on the first phase, that first phase would make us unpopular, UCT, and secondly, I don't think we'll ever get to the second phase.